Hello, I'm excited to record this video because I think it's going to be the first time here that you're going to really experience the power of React. So the goal of this video is to teach you how to think as a React developer. So we are going to go step by step building a small application, but that's going to give you a good idea of how is the development when you're using React. So let's start. What's going to be this app? It's going to be a simple list where you have like a filter, and you also have this option to show only products that are in stock. And it's a list of what? Like some grocery shop, I don't know. Like have a few fruits and have a few vegetables here and the price and their names. That's it. It's a very simple app, and you can see here what is the expected data. So you're going to think that you're going to receive this data from an API. We are not going to use a real API here, but you get the idea. And the API is going to return this array of data. So we have the category of each product. We have the price of each product, if it's on stock or not, and also the name of the product itself. So that's the data that we're going to work here. Then let's start trying to think about this UI in the way that you can see the components. So if you are a developer, I think a good analogy for you here is to try to think like each component one single responsibility. Like if you are a designer and you're used with like CSS, maybe you can think about like how to create the selectors and the classes, the way to shape this component hierarchy. And if you're a designer, maybe you're going to think more about layers, like a designer that's not just working with CSS. But let's see this in practice because I think it's a lot easier to see in action. So what we have here, we have this table, and in this table here we have a lot of other components. So the first one is a table, this outer part here, but you also have a search bar. You have like this checkbox here. You have like this inner table where your data is going to be displayed with a header, and then the category, and then the products. So you can imagine like a few components from this part. So you have first this whole table, like filterable product table. You also have the search bar, like this part here. And we also have the product table, like just the products here. And the category, that is a special row because it behaves in a different way, and also the product row. So this is basically the components that we are going to create. And it's nice to try to think about these components when you start, but also if you decide to do something later, it's fine. You're going to see in the end of the video, because I'm not going to follow like 100% the documentation. We are going to do more and things in a little bit different way, but you're going to see later that we are going to also create a new component to have more power in this header. So you don't need to stick with your choices from the beginning. Like you can change your mind, and React is really powerful, and it's really easy to also to refactor your code. So in the end, this is what we have, okay? So you have a way to have like a product table inside an area with filter. We have a search bar, we have the table itself, and you have the category row, and you have also the row. So this is basically this first work that we did, that is to understand the hierarchy between these components. The next step here, and then we are going to start to code. We are going to code like the static version of it. So we are just going to put this in the code, but without any interaction. So we are going to just lay down the components in the proper place, and let's see how it looks. So let's forget a little bit about the docs, and let's go to the code. The only thing that I did here was to run npx create react app. So we are going to use create react app. We already talked about this in previous videos. And I created this app with the name of thinking in React. So with that in place, I just opened this in WebStorm. I prefer WebStorm, but you can use other tools. If you prefer like VS Code, that's okay. It's not going to make any difference here. And then you can run this project just going to our package.json, and you can run in this start script here. And you can see in the browser, and that's basically it. We are ready to start to create our list app. So going back here, just to be clear, the only change that I did was to install Prettier here, because otherwise Prettier was not being identified by WebStorm. So that was the only change. And so let's start. So we want to create this list, and you have a few components. Let's copy from the docs what components we want to have, so you don't forget about anything. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to just copy this just as a reference, and I'm going to paste here. So okay, you have this component list, and let's create this together. So the first one is going to be the filter table. So I'm going to keep the app as like our root component, and I'm going to start to create the other ones here. So I'm going to create this component here. Okay, and this component we know like it's the outer component, the component that is like wrapping everything. So I'm going to use a div, and I'm going to create like this search bar component here as well. So I can create this component. I'm just using the IDE to generate for me, and I prefer to have like as arrow function. Okay, I also need to have my product table, so I'm going to use the IDE again, create function component, and I can convert this to arrow function. And inside my table, I'm going to have this product row. So I'm going to use div here. Later maybe you're going to switch to something else, but you're going to have this component here. And I'm also going to convert to arrow function. And last, we are going to have our product row. We know we are going to have like multiple rows, but let's first just create the component itself. Okay, so let's go back now to the docs and to copy this JSON. Okay, let's copy this array. I'm going to put this in the top. I'll call like API response. We know it's like just a fake response, but it's good enough for us here. So we can start to like improve this a little bit. So let's start with the search bar. To not waste a lot of time, let's just copy this here. So we can just start from this point. So we have a form. Now we also have this product table. So let's copy it from here as well. So this is the final markup. But you know, in this table, we have more things here. So we need to have these rows. This rows is going to be what? Like it's going to be our API response mapped to each product here is going to map to a TR here that is a row in the table. Okay. So, and you know that we have like the name and the price. So you can already get the product.name here in a column, and also the product.price. Okay, let's format this code. So you have the rows here, and you need to have always a key. I think you can use just the name as a key here. Okay. We are not going to use yet the product category row. We can create this shortly, but this, we already have a component for that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use our component here, product row, providing a product. And now I'm going to just return this TR here, and we are going to have our product here. So this key, now we are going to move to our component. And let me format this, and now we have this working as another component, and I'm not going to worry about this right now. Okay, now let's use this in our app. So I will just keep this first div here, but I'm going to add our filterable product table, and I'm going to hit save, and let's see if this is working. Yes, it's working. So you have like this top nav here, and we also have the table here. So very simple. We just put all the data here, and you just put these elements in the UI. But before we add more interactions here, for now you're just putting the components. Let's fix a few problems that we have. Like we don't want to have this class name here, We are not focusing on styles in this video. And also like this API response, we should receive the product list here as a list of products. So we can just use this here, like products. And you can even maybe, instead of receiving here, you could receive the products here. So we are going to receive the products here, and you're going to provide to our table here. So the products are going to come from this first level. So, okay, this is our API response with a list of products. And also, let's take a look. Okay, you have removed the center, so now it's in the left side. And let's try to improve a little bit here, because we have one boolean that is the stock. So let's put red when it's out of stock. So we can go scroll here, stocked. So if it's false, this row is going to be red. So you can put the style here, and then you can put color and the product stocked. So if it's the stock, we are not going to change the color, and if it's not, we are going to put red. So let's save, and that's it. So this is red, and this is red because it's out of stock. Now we also need to start to use this. So I'm going to put the category here, and I'm going to return also the line, the row, and I'm going to put the call spa2 because we are going to use 2 columns here, and I'm going to display the category name. But you need to show this component as well. So what you need to do here, we need to improve a little bit the style here, because in a few cases you need to also return the category row. So if you look here, you can see when is the first row, you always want to return the category, and the second case that you want to return the category is when the category is different. So we are going to have a row here when is the first one, and also you're going to have a row here when you have a new one. So to implement this, we are going to use a reduce function instead of a map. And the signature is basically you are going to have what you are creating, like the new element that you are going to return. Usually you call this the accumulator because you are going to add and add more on each interaction. And also here, we are going to start with the initial empty array. So we start with no rows. So this is going to be the first value here. And we are also going to need the index because, as I said, the first one we want to have the category row. So let's start with creating this component, category row. It's going to be our category row, and we're going to provide the product.category. Also, we need to have our regular row. So we are going to get our regular row from here. And let's put the key as well here. And it's also going to be the category name. And now we need to decide what you need to return. And first you need to see, do we have a new category now? And what's the rule? Is the rule that I just explained showing you the table in the docs. If the index is the first one, so we need to have a new category here because you need to put the row there. Or if the product, like the current product.category, is different from the previous product, so it's index less one.category. So we can return. If it's a new category, what you need to return? You need to return the previous rows that you have, the accumulator. Then we need to put the category row here, and then you put the new row. And if it's not, you can just put the new row here in the accumulator, and that's basically it. Let's save and let's see if it's working. As you can see here, it's working, but let's put a bold font here so it's easier to detect the categories here in the table. So you need to add a style tag here. It's going to be font weight, and it's going to be bold. So you can save, and now you can see the categories in bold font. Now we go to the next step that you need to find like what we need to represent as a stage, like what is going to change over time. And you don't want to repeat like the same stage everywhere. So we have a few elements there, right? You have the list of the products. We also have the search text. We also have the value for the checkbox to represent if you should show stocked items only. And we also have the filtered list of the products, because we are going to use these two to filter this list. So which of these are state? So usually the rule here is like, does it remain unchanged? So if you ask this question, it's remain unchanged, so it's not a state because it's not changing. So is it passed from the parent to this component? So it's also not a state because it's just a property. This one can be a little bit tricky because if you can compute, so it's going to change, but it's going to change based on another props or states. So it's definitely not a state because you can compute this in render time. So what do you have here left? So the original list, of course, it's a prop, it's not a state. The search is going to change over time, so it needs to be a state. The value of the checkbox also needs to be a state. And that's the tricky one, because the filtered list of products, it's going to change, but it's not a state because you can compute this list when you get the search and when you get the checkbox. So you don't need to have a state for this list because it can be computed from the other states that we have. And I think it's helpful to reinforce this concept of props and states. So there are two different ways to represent data in React, and props are like the arguments that you pass to a function. So for example, a form can pass a color to a button, and that's it. It's just like an argument. But the state's like the memory of one specific component. So a button, for example, can hold the state if the user is hovering it or not. So they can be confusing in the start, but after you use React for a few months, it's going to get like very easy to decide when it's a property and when it's a state. So now that we already decide that you have two states, one for the search text and other for the checkbox for the stocked items, so you need to identify where they should live. And this is basically understanding where they are used, right? Where they change and where they are consumed. So in our case, you can see here that you need to use the state in the product table because you need to filter this list. And also you need to use in the search bar because you need to change it, like the visual for the state itself. You need to show the input, you need to show the text inside the input, you need to show the checkbox or checked or unchecked. So they need to be in these two components. But now maybe you have a problem, right? Because if you have two components, how I can share the state, and you already learned in previous videos that you can lift the state. So you need to find a common parent, like one component that can hold the same state for both of these components. So the component that we're going to use in this case is the main component, the filterable product table. So you can even check our code just to make sure we know what you're doing. And you can see here that you need to use this state in the product table and also in the search bar. And exactly this is the common parent. We should not use like the app in this case here because the app is too far. Like you don't need the state to live here. You just need to leave the state one level above the components that use the state. In this case, these are the components, so the state should go here. And you can use the useState function from React. So this hook is going to keep the state and it's going to render all the time the states change our component one more time. So we need to have something like this. It's very similar to previous videos. So we need to provide the initial value and you can hold the value in a variable and you have a setter to modify this value. So we are going to do this now. In the previous video we did for the counter, and now we are going to do one for the text and another one for the checkbox. So to save time here, let's copy this. So I'm going to copy this to our filterable products table. And I'm also going to copy this so we provide these properties to our components. So now you can bring this property to the component itself and start using inside the component. So let's go back here. Let's go to the search bar and you have these two new properties. So what you're going to do here, you need to get this property here. I just copied the text so I don't mistype anything. Okay, and then this is going to be the value of this component, and this is going to be the value of this component. And let's see if it's working. So okay, we can't see anything here yet, and you can see already a warning saying that we are providing a value, but we are not providing the onChange handler. So we are going to do this in a few moments. But first, let's try to change this state. So as you don't have a way to change right now using like the input text, we can try to change here. So you can, for example, put like Apple here and see what happens. And you can see now the initial value here is Apple. So let's already filter by using Apple and also the checkbox. And later we are going to make this work with React event handlers. So what you need to do to the product table, and you need to filter this data. So before we reduce the list of products, you can filter. So we have a function that's called filter that's going to receive a product. So what you are going to do, you need to have our name here. So product.name to lowercase because the case is not important to this comparison. So we are going to see if this name includes the name that is being used in the filter. So is the filter text. And we are going to also put lowercase here. So it's using the filter, so this is okay. So this product should be here. So if it's not, we are going to return false. It's important to note that I am denying this condition. So if it doesn't include, we are going to return false. That's going to remove this product. And we are going to do the same for the stock. So let's get the stock here. And we are going to also check if it's only in stock and the product is not stocked. So we need to deny here. So we're going to return false. Otherwise, we're going to return true because the two conditions are okay. So we are going to filter. If the name doesn't include what is being filtered, we are going to return false. And it's better also to check if you have something here. So we can just have, okay, if you have something and it's not included in the name, and also if you are filtering, and that's it. Okay, so this is our filter. So let's save. And as our initial state is holding just Apple, it's working. But we can't change anything here because we have this warning to fix. But let's just test with just put one letter, like A in our initial state. Like if I put A, we should see all the elements with A in the name, and it's working properly. And if you put here true, you should see only the ones that are in the stock. So you should not see any red items here. And it's also working as expected. Okay, but that's not enough because you need to change the data, typing here and clicking here, and that's not working. So you go to the fifth step. So you need to change the data in the state. So you need to use the setters, right? Because you're not using the setter yet. So you need to send the setters also to our component. So the search bar is going to affect this state. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste here in the search bar. Let's format it. So now we are passing down these two states, and you can see you can use different name. It's not a problem. They're just properties. And I'm going to go to our search bar and I'm going to use these properties that we got from the level above. So let's format it. And here, okay. So now what you need to get, the state change. What is the change that you want to track? Is the change in this input field. So you can get the value that is going to come from this event. So this event is going to have a target, and the value is the part that we want to see. So we are going to put on filter text change. You are going to provide this value. So all the time that this change happens, we are going to get the target, that is the input itself, the value inside it, and you're going to change here. And you're going to do the same for the checkbox, but here instead of value, you're going to get the property checked. And you're also going to change here for the in-stock state to react from this change. Okay, let's see if this is working. So if you change here like dragon, okay, and if you put spinach, okay, but there is something wrong here. Can you see this? Like you're getting a lot of times the category here. Even in the empty list, you check this like 2, 3, like a lot of times. So The problem here is because you are using reduce, and here you are getting like the previous position. But now we are filtering. So this array is not the same array that is here because we are filtering a lot of options. But for our lucky, if you go to the specification and if you check like the parameters that we get in the callback function from reduce, the fourth one is the array, like exactly what you need, the array where reduce was called. So with this, we have a very easy fix here. We just need to get like the original array, original products, and you just change here. That's the only point that we are accessing the array. So let's go back to our code here. And if you refresh, now you don't see duplicates anymore of the category. So you can see it's working as expected, and you don't see the same category twice because now we are using the correct array after the filter. So let's fix this initial state. Should be empty and here should be false. Let's save. So now we can see everything, and if you click here, it's working, and if you filter here, it's also working. So now we have everything that we want here working properly as in the documentation. But I want to do one more thing here. I would like to have a way to sort these elements clicking in the name so you can see them in alphabetical order. And when we have alphabetical order, I am also going to hide the categories, because if I want alphabetical order, I probably don't want to see the categories here because otherwise it's going to be hard to see they in the correct order. So let's implement this in this header here. When you click in the name, it's going to enable the alphabetical order. So the state needs to be where. So the same rule, we need to have the state in the product table because you need to have this in the header that is here. And we also need to affect the product table itself. But check here, like we don't need to use in the search bar. So we are okay. We can just put the state in the product table. So let's do it. Let's create the sort here. And we are going to use state. And by default, it's going to be empty because then you are going to have the ascendant order and the descendant order. So it's going to be empty or ascendant or descendant. So we can implement the sort here, like get the two elements. And I'm just going to paste because this is a very simple sort logic. So you're going to just put uppercase because the case doesn't matter. And then you're going to return to have the alphabetical order. But remember, like if you have the sort option, enable, otherwise you don't want to do this. So what you need to check, like if you don't have a sort option, you can just return 0 for everybody. So all the elements is going to be like equal. And now if you have the sort in the ascendant order, so if sort is equal ask of ascendant order, we are going to return less 1. Otherwise, you're going to return 1. And you can do the same here, but with the opposite. So we are going to return the reverse. And now let's add this state to a component so you can control when you click in this header. So we are going to go here and you're going to implement onClick. You can put onSort and let's create this function. We want to create this function inside here. So when they click the sort, we are going to change. So set sort, and you need to create a rule here. Like if the sort is not defined, we are going to put by default, like for the ask. Otherwise, if the sort is already ask, we are going to put desk. And if the sort is already desk, that is the last case, you are going to return to empty so the user can switch between all these options. So now when you click and you can see it's changing, but you still have a few things to fix. You need to remove this because it makes no sense anymore. So we are going to check here. We don't have sort and this is true. Because if you have sort, this needs to be false all the time, so no category is going to be included. So now if I click here, Okay, no categories and categories again. So let's put a very simple indication here so you know when you have the sort available. So we are going to put like this. We're going to be, okay, you have a sort, so we can put a parenthesis and you can put the sort. Otherwise, you're going to have nothing. So let's save. And you can see now it's ask, now it's desk, and now no sorting. So now we have a logic here to sort, to hide the categories, and it's working really nice. I hope you are excited with this video because you learn a lot of stuff. You learn how to handle state, how to put the state in the correct place. You check one case where you need to lift the state to share between two components. And now we implement this sort here where the state is affecting just one component. So it's really nice, React, really powerful. And that's basically what you're going to do most of the time. Of course, you still have a lot of docs to cover and you're going to learn a lot of edge cases. But like that's the basic, like every day we are going to use these techniques and the way to implement these states and these props and to change the behavior of your application. I hope you have enjoyed this part so far, and now we are going to start with a lot of deep dives inside all the React concepts that you need to master to be a professional React developer. See you in the next video. Bye bye.